Gonna do a video today a bit different to the normal Range Rover, Land Rover stuff. We're gonna upgrade the rear wheel hub on a Pre-war Riley Kestrel Sprite, which is my car we've got here in the workshop today. We're going to drive it to Le Mans, so we're going to do this. We're supposed to be going on Monday. Right, we are going to change. I've done one side. We are going to upgrade the wheel bearing from a rollerball to a sealed rollerball here. And we're going to upgrade the oil seal from this old, I think is leather type here, which is leaking, to this more modern rubber with a spring and a double lip seal. We've also got a new gasket here that we'll need as part of the process. So I'll just video how we do some of this. Hopefully it might help someone. Not many people, because I don't think there's many of these left. Right, let me pass this over to Harry. Right, so first of all, we're going to take the wheel nut off, which is, okay, the spinner off. We've got the car jacked up. Now, one thing you need to do, you do need to jack up the side you're working on higher, so that the oil in the diff and the rear axle goes to the other wheel. Otherwise, when you take the hub off, it's all going to pour out here. So that's the wire wheel removed. Alright, you can look in there, Harry. I'm just going to jack it up a bit. Okay, I'm going to put an axle stand under the axle on this side. Okay, lower it down so this end is pointing up. There we go. Okay, so we're safe to work now. What I'm going to do now is remove these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 nuts holding the brake drum on. I'll get those removed and I'll come back and show you what to do next. Okay, so take that last one off. I've taken off the 5. So on this car we've got a flat washer, a spring washer and a nut. We've got that on each of the 6. Right, now what we've done is we've gone on the brake adjuster and slackened the brakes off. I'll show you that in a minute, so that the brake drum is free, and we should now be able to, it says, get the brake drum off. Okay, so that's the brake drum off. That's the inside of the brake drum. Okay, and that's the configuration of the brakes there. So on the adjuster, what I'm doing here, if you come in a bit closer, on the back I've got a spanner, and if you look in here, look on from the front here, Harry, what you'll see is as I wind the adjuster in, there's a little conical end there, and as you wind the con out, the brake linings come closer, so you can get the brake drum off. Okay, so the next job I've got to do is I've got to undo these bolts. I've got to undo these 2 here. So there's 2 bolts, 1 there and 1 there. Okay, so yeah, so we should just be able to remove these 2 bolts, and we should be able to pull the half shaft out then, in theory. There goes one of the bolts there, and the other one underneath. Okay, and then it's a question of pulling this out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get an old wheel spinner, and I'm going to use a hammer behind that to try and pull this out. I'll show you that next. Okay, so I've spun this old spinner on, which I use, and what we can do is if we can tap behind that, we can actually remove the half shaft. So here we go, if we have a look there. So that's the half shaft removed. You can see the splines here where it fits into the diff, but that's a half shaft from the Riley removed. The next job we've got to do is, you can see that's the rear bit of the bearing housing there, and the oil seal sits in that. We've got to get that off. So what we've got to do is we just remove this pinned clip here and undo this nut, and then we'll pull the bearing off. So I'll go and get some tools and we'll have a go at that. Okay, so just get some pliers, pull out that clip there. You can remove that clip. Okay, and then we can get on. There's probably a better tool for doing this. It's probably not the purest way, but it shouldn't take too much. Now, we don't think this has a left-handed thread, so we should better just gently tap this anti-clockwise. They don't normally take too much. Oh, that definitely moved. But it's gone. Okay. Undo that. Okay. So one thing to note is when you put this back on, it has to go in an exact position for that clip we removed to line up. I'll show you how that works as soon as we've got this one off. But it looks like this wheel oil seal's been leaking because this is covered in gear oil. So you'll see there where the pin goes in, you can see that comes through the thread, and actually on the top of the hub there we've got a hole, and that's what locks this lock-in pin in. That actually goes through the nut into that hole there. So watch that when you put it all back together. Okay, we've now got to pull that bearing off there. So that bearing will need a bearing puller to grip on there and pull that. So we'll go and get something to do that. Okay, so we've just put the half shaft back in. We haven't got a bearing puller, and we're going to try and do it by putting the half shaft back in. We've put 3 of these bolts in here so that the rear oil seal assembly is, and we're going to try the same technique we used for removing the half shaft. We're just going to tap on this old spinner and see if we can gently pull out the whole bearing. If I work it on both sides. I think that's coming. There we go. Okay. So now we've pulled out the rear bearing housing. So let me just take these nuts off and we'll have a look what we've got. So obviously we could have done that initially, but I think if you just want to know how to change the half shaft, it makes it a bit clearer. Okay, so now, okay, so now we've got, okay, we've got the rear bearing housing. Now this one looks like it's had an updated oil seal put in there, but we'll swap it for a new one anyway. But the original type that we had in the other side was this metal ring leather type. So we're going to change this one over, and then we're going to replace that bearing. The bearing now actually is stuck in here, so we're kind of, but I think if we drop that down on the ground, that's it. So I mean, that looks like it's had a sealed bearing put in, but we'll replace them both and put it back together. Yeah, so to get this oil seal, you should better just push this out. I'll go and get some tools. We'll knock this out and then we'll put it all back together. Okay, just going to knock the oil seal. We've got the upturned brake drum, which seems to be a good receptacle for knocking the old oil seal out. So there we go, we've knocked the oil seal out. What we're going to do now is we're going to clean up. We're going to take this gasket off here, what's left of this gasket, and we're going to clean up the surface. You can see there where we've left some of the gasket on there. We're going to clean that all up, and then we're going to come back and put that all back together again. Give it a clean. So we'll do that and we'll come and see you in a minute.